Ladies and gentlemen, our guests, good morning. I'm very happy to welcome you here for today's opening ceremony of this 60th academic year of the Scuola Enrico Mattei. And to mark this occasion, we are very happy to have here with us today ENI's CEO, Claudio Descalzi, to whom I will leave the floor in a few moments. The academic year we are opening today is welcoming 36 students coming from 11 countries, and not to forget anyone I'm going to read: Angola, Cyprus, Congo, Egypt, Ghana, Indonesia, Italy, Kazakhstan, Mexico, Mozambique, and Turkmenistan. We do not have any new countries to add to our very long list this year, but let me say it's very challenging to do that because in these 60 years, the school has been attended by almost 2,900 students coming from something like 110 different countries. And we are mentioning these numbers only to give evidence to the very long tradition of the Scuola here at ENI. Enrico Mattei had quite a visionary outlook when decided to set up the school in the late 50s. This was the first postgraduate school in Italy in those years, and to put it in a better perspective, I think it's useful to remind that the Second World War had ended only 12 years before, and for sure education was not the very top priority in that moment in our country. But I think that the fact we are opening the 60th academic year also gives us the sense of the very long tradition of the positive and long-lasting relationships ENI builds with its business partners and with all the communities of the countries in which we operate. And let me add that it's also a clear indication of the fruitful connection which we think does exist among businesses, competencies, education and training, and also of the great attention ENI has always paid and pays to develop strong dialogue among different cultures. I would like to welcome and thank you once again for joining us here today. And now let me leave the floor to Claudio Descalzi. Claudio, please.
Thank you, Grazia. Good morning, everybody, and thank you to be here with us today. It's really a great pleasure to be here today because it's 60 years that our school, Enrico Mattei School, exists and started. And we can say that this school has been the ambassador of ENI, the ambassador of our values, and put together so many people, so many colleagues, people that then worked in ENI, but also they work around the world, and there is a wonderful network and connection between individuals that attend these schools and got in touch with ENI values. Today, we can consider the startup of the academic years of the masters, and we thought that because after 60 years and also because we are traveling through a very complicated period, it was, I think, interesting to discuss about where we are and starting to discuss about our company, presenting our company. You are going to, I think, touch different points during this year about energy, about environment, about financials, but I think that we have always to consider not just the single disciplines, but also the context, and understand how we can use our skills, our tools, what you already learned in the past and what we are going to learn in this year, really to face the future for you and also for the environment, for the people that are around you. We want to start discussing about our company, introducing our company, and the title is very interesting because we talk about external revolution and internal transformation. And that is, I think, has a very important meaning because when there is an external revolution, we have to change ourselves. And when we change ourselves, we must have some points that we have to consider, in this case, our values. As you can see, I'm going to talk, before talking about that, I just want to tell you, for the people that don't know our company, what are our fields and what we do as a main and core job. It's clear we are an energy company. We are the largest, the sixth largest company in the world in terms of oil and gas. In this case, in terms of production and reserves. We work in more than 70 countries, so very spread. And the main activities we perform are, as you know, is exploration and production. That is the main activity, has been the main activity, still the main and core activity for Eni. We have a good presence in the refinery and marketing, especially in Europe and mainly in Italy. We are in gas and power, and gas in terms of buying and selling gas, we are, I think, the first player in Europe. And then we are in the trading, in the chemicals, in the downstream refineries in Italy and in Europe, and chemicals in Europe, in Italy, and worldwide. So we are present in all the oil and gas value chain. And this presence in the upstream is worldwide. Now we see what just as a very fast preview what happened in this year in terms of oil price, in terms of then our KPI, in terms of our EBIT, our profitability. You see that in the last 2.5 years we experienced a very difficult, complex scenario in terms of oil price. You see that starting from 2014, we have a very big drop in the oil price, minus 60%, and that clearly impacted on our company impacted all the industries. We started from 2014. I arrived in 2014. I arrived in Eni in 1981, not in 2014, but I arrived as a CEO in 2014. And after a few months, we had this strong drop in the oil price. Fortunately, I arrived in May, and we start from the very beginning, the first month, we change completely the structure of our company. A structure that lasted since Mattei, because Eni before was an holding company with different companies that report into the holding. We had Agip Mineraria, that was the E&P. We have the chemicals, the refinery. We had a different company. Then we became, as you know, we privatized the company in 1995, and we had practically a similar organization, because we have the corporate with different divisions. Each division was practically replicate the company. So was practically from the beginning, from 1952 until 1995, the same kind of configuration. We arrived and we thought to change the structure of our company. We thought to change the structure of our company mainly because we wanted to give a more boost and attention to our E&P business. As you see, we start from 2011 up to 2013. That is the EBIT, so the operational cash flow produced by the E&P, that represented in the last 10 years about 110% of our income, so of our EBIT. So we had a problem. So we have a very strong leg that is E&P, but we add the refinery chemicals and gas and power that in the last period, chemicals for a long time, but refinery from 10 years and gas and power for 4 years, that lost a lot of money. So we need to make a very strong action. We made this action before the drop of the oil gas, fortunately, and the action was aimed at create more efficiency, reduce cost, structural cost, and create more resilience in the business, the refinery, the gas and power, the chemicals that lost a lot of billions. Altogether, they lost in 10 years more than 15 billions, considering also the write-off. So they lost a lot of money, and we needed to have immediate actions. So we changed completely the eni. We changed completely eni because we don't have any more the corporate. We don't. We cancelled. We removed the divisions, and we allocate all the different business directly to the report of the CEO. So exploration, development, refinery, chemicals. And we create a centralized business to support, support business unit to support all our businesses. That was done to really to create a unit that were able to support all the different business and not replicating each unit to support all the business. That allow us to reduce cost. And that was the first action, and create good results. So now we're going to see and look together the different kind of scenarios. So we are going to analyze the context for the oil, for the gas, and for the refinery, and then we see how we reacted. So we talk about the result we got in the last couple of years. So now we can start with the oil scenario. So as you can see in this graph, we talk about the big change. The big change that I think characterized the last 10 years, also if we discover recently. The first one is the market and the demand. The demand is coming in the last years, we can say in 10 years, comes from the non-OECD countries. The non-OECD countries are the countries that are, we can say, the OECD countries are Europe and the US, Australia. The other countries are considered non-OECD countries, so countries that are still in a developing phase. And these countries account for more than 85% of the worldwide populations. And what we can see that we discover, and we can see that the demand and the growth came just from the non-OECD countries. The other countries practically they are flat in terms of oil demand. Sometimes they are reducing the oil demand. So that is a structural change that happened in the last 10 years, but became relevant in the last 3 years. Then we have the geopolitical uncertainty. Geopolitical uncertainties is characterized, I think, in the last 15, 20 years, but it's clearly in the last 2 years became an issue, became a big issue, are spread around, are everywhere. They are in OECD country, non-OECD country, and that are a big impact, especially in the producing country, because we lost a lot of production, supply in this case, in Libya, in Nigeria, in Iraq, in Iran, where sanctions or other issues, wars, create a strong reduction in the supply. Then we have other, we can say, positive issues that are the shale oil. The shale oil characterized, shale gas before and shale oil later characterized this period. There are really some unique events that happened in the last years because of the technological breakthrough, and that create an increase in the supply. So from one side we see the OECD country reducing supply, the non-OECD country increasing, but not at the same level, about 1.2, 1.3, 1.4 million barrels, depends on the years, on average, yearly on average. And then we have the shale oil. Shale oil impacted drastically the American market. And impacted all the world because we increased the production. They increased the production of about 3.84 million barrels in 4 or 5 years. So really a very good rate. And create a different market in the U.S. The U.S. became practically independent from an oil point of view, increased their refining activity. They built new refinery to treat this oil, and that, as we'll see in the next slide, impacted also the European market drastically. Then we have the financial dynamics. The financial dynamics are really impacted the last 6-7 years, starting from the 2008. In 2008, we had the big crisis, and we are still under the influences of this big crisis, financial crisis, then create a strong drop, especially in the OECD countries. But then now they reached also the non-OECD country. And that is another thing that create an anomalies and create a disruption in the energy system. We have also the climate change issue, the awareness about the environment. That is not new. That is something that is at least about 20 years that we talk about climate change, but only in the last 5 years after 2010 and targeting 2016 with the Paris COP21 meeting, that the climate change became stronger and stronger and impacted clearly the energy mix. So, and that is an issue because that is a structural change that we upset. We are really pushing as ENI on this sense, but that is a structural issue. So the climate change issue, the non-OECD country growth, the shale oil are all structural issues that happen in the last years and change the landscape. We put as a last point the OPEC decision to not intervene in the oil contest. That is I don't know if it's a structural point, but clearly is a strong point. OPEC decided for the first time, the last 3 cycles, oil cycles, to not intervene, to not reduce production, to control prices. That is clearly is a big issue. That is impacted the oil price and create the instability of the last 2 years, of the last 2.5 years. We have to remember that in 2009 and also 1999, OPEC reduced a lot their production rate. In 2009, 2008, 2009, they reduced of about 4 million barrels per day. And we passed from a $38 per barrel to $100 per barrel in 6 months. So I think that OPEC before really gave an assurance to everybody, to the investors, to the oil company, that we had a floor in our oil price, and that disappeared. You have to see, for example, that in this crisis, the imbalance between supply and demand has been of about 2.5 billion, already less than 3 billion barrels. I mean, we produce 2.5 million barrels more than the demand we have. And today, for example, we have an imbalance of about 700,000 barrels per day. So we produce 700,000 barrels per day more than what we consume. And you can imagine that OPEC intervene like they did just 7 years ago. They reduce of 1 million barrel, 1.5, 2 million barrels per day. Immediately, the oil price is going to recover. They decide not to intervene. So we enter in a big anomalies, in a big change that is going to characterize the future. For sure, for OECD or non-OECD and non-OECD country is a structural issue. Say shale oil is a structural issue. The COP21, so the climate change is a structural issue. I don't know about OPEC, but in any case, also if OPEC now decide to reduce production, created precedent, and the financial world, the investors, will doubt about our commodities. So they doubt about invest again in a commodity that can drop drastically because there is no regulator. So as you see now, you can see the impact of that. You see, for example, the impact. You see it from on the left side. You see the demand that is in red, and you see that there is an inversion of the trend in 2014, and the supply is increasing drastically with a very big gradient, and is really much more. Here we talk about 2.2, 2.5 million more than the demand, and simultaneously we have the drop in the oil price. That is something that can change in the future. I think that the fundamentals are positive. The fundamentals means what we see in the market. We see that the supply is going down because in the last 2 years we had a reduction of investment of about $360 billion. That is a huge amount of money. That means that a lot of projects, most of the project, has been stopped. So there are really a low number of projects that will start up in the 2-3 years. Clearly, we stopped project in 2014-15. We're going to really feel the impact of these in 2 or 3 years' time. So in 2019, 2020. But clearly, that creates a drop in the production. Shale oil dropped immediately. Shale oil is a huge, can give you a huge amount of production, but has a depletion rate of 50%. So they can lose 50% of its production in 1 year, while for the conventional assets, the depletion rate is 5%. So clearly, there are a different kind of response to a reduction of oil and a reduction of investment. So the shale oil, starting from May 2015, so the shale oil regions lost about 1.2 million barrels per day. The OECD countries lost about 700,000 barrels per day. So in the last 2 years, what happened? That not only OPEC didn't cut production, but they increased production. So OPEC increased the production about 2 million barrels per day. So they did the opposite of what they were used to do. And that is creating the issue. But the fundamentals say that we are reducing, the production is going down. I think that if we look at Saudi Arabia and Iraq and also Iran, they reached the limit, so there are not more spare capacity. We have a spare capacity that worldwide is less than 2%. The spare capacity is the capability to open the valve and increase production, more or less, or with some marginal work. And that is no more there. So we don't have the possibility, without investment, to increase production, and we have a very low spare capacity. The only thing that is remaining, looking at the fundamentals, we have a big storage capacity. We have about 3.2 billion barrels stored that we have as a reserves. Normally, that is about 700, 800 million barrels more than the average that we have normally. So we always add a big storage capacity, but now we are sitting the average of the last 10, 15 years. That is not a big issue because is a question of months, 1 year maximum. They can evacuate and sell all this capacity that is physically present in the market. So the fundamentals are not there, and the situation is likely that will be possible in 2018, not immediately in 2017, but in 2018 to have an inversion. So we have the opposite trend. and we are going to have a demand that will be higher than the supply. The International Energy Agency forecasts that if we continue with this kind of investment trend, in 2020 we can have an imbalance between supply and demand of 20 million barrels per day. I mean that the demand will exceed the supply of 20 million barrels per day. That can be dangerous for our business, because that means that there is a step, immediately an increase in the price. And that is not good, because that means that we pass from a low level to a higher level, and then we can think to have again a low level. And that for the investor, for the company, also for the market is very bad. What we like to have a very steady state of price of market, so we can forecast our investment without risking our money. So that is the oil. Very quickly, there are a lot of things to do, but that are the main topics. And now we can look at the gas. The gas, I think that for the oil we had a very big shock, and that is a shock. But for the gas, the shock is, I think, is even more important. Why I say that? You see now the three trend. So what we got the three trend in the different sector of the world. A sector because until today we consider to have three different sectors. One is the U.S. The U.S. that starting from 2008, because of the shale gas, that we call Shale Gas Revolution, they increased drastically their gas production, and they create a practically hub of gas that is the area hub that is a spot market. So there is no long-term contract in the U.S. And from 2008, because of the huge supply, the price went down. You see that the red line, that is the American gas market, is very flat, is very low, and passed from 2007, 2008 oil dollar per million of BTU to a 2.5, they touch also $1.1 per million of BTU, very flat. That is one of the reasons why the U.S. were able to replace their coal using gas and reducing the emissions by 25% in 10 years. But that is the market. So we were used for years to have a hurry up at very low level, then a higher level of gas price in the European market, that is the intermediate one, and then we had a very high price that was the Far East market, with a very high price that touched also $18-20 per million of BTU. So we passed from an American market of $1.5-2 per million BTU up to 20, and Europe was in the middle. You see that now. Everything changed. Everything changed for different reasons, and the gas price and the three different sectors are practically aligned. There are just a separation due to the logistics, to the transportation for the LNG market. But that has a big impact on our business as well. So from one side, we had been a big drop on the oil market, but from the other side, the gas didn't help us, because also gas went down. So for the industry, that is a big issue. Went down, why? Because in Europe, we lost about 100 billion cubic meter per year of consumptions. In 2008, the European gas consumption was about 520 billion cubic meter. Now is less than 400 billion. So we lost a lot because we reduced the consumption, more efficiency, a little more in renewables, but the bad news that we increased the coal utilization in the energy sector. Why we increased the coal? Because the coal coming from the US was cheaper than the gas. If we express everything, we normalize everything in million of BTU, we see that the coal price was about when we are in the 2013, 2014, the coal price was about $4 per million of BTU against a gas price of $10, $12 per million of BTU. So clearly the market decided, also if we have a tax on the emission rate, on the CO2 emissions, also if we put as a European a lot of subsidies for the renewable, the market decided to buy gas. They open up and they built a new coal power plant. And that was very bad for our business, but also for the environment and for the climate change, because we increased our emissions. We spent a lot of money for subsidy to promote renewable. We increased renewable from 2010 up to now about 7%, but we increased the coal utilization of 10%. And that destroyed completely and cancelled completely each effort we made on the renewable side as a European. And the European has been the bunch of countries that more than the others spend for the renewable. If you consider that we are in the war, we had in the war about $140 billion of subsidy each year to promote renewable. In Europe, we have more than 50% of these subsidies, so we spend about 75, 80 billion euro of subsidy to promote renewable. But that was completely useless, and it didn't give any results. So we spent money to allow coal to step in practically. So that was a clearly inconsistency, and I think was not in line with the European effort for the climate change. That happened because we don't have a policy. We just have the ETS that is a very light carbon price process that practically now doesn't exist anymore. Just to give you an example, the ETS that is the market where you buy your credit in terms of CO2, to be valid, to impact on the emission market, you have to consider $30, $40 per ton of CO2 emitted. And now the price for each share is $4. So that means that if you want to produce CO2, it's very cheap. You buy this, you buy your credit, but is not impacting your business. So Europe is that. Asia is more or less the same stuff. We had a nuclear issue, but I think the gas consumption has been reduced in Japan, in Korea. China in 2010 aimed to really increase drastically 6 or 5 times more their gas consumption, reducing coal, but because of the coal price they didn't. China is using just a small amount of gas. China is more or less in terms of consumption, gas consumption for electricity, like Italy, you can imagine, is more than 80 billion cubic meter per year. The old plan was to reach 500 billion, like Europe, more or less. They didn't, they couldn't. They decided to go ahead with coal. Now they changed their mind, but they don't have time, so they said that they cannot do that before 2030, and that's what they signed. So they said, we want to reduce emission, but our commitment is not to reduce now, but to reach the maximum of our emission by 2030. So it's a very very strange kind of commitment, but it's a commitment. But the issue was they reduced the gas, and the Chinese economy has been reduced by the financial crisis, and that means that the gas has been reduced, and you see the impact on the price. The price really went down. So we saw the oil, we saw the gas. The gas is a bit different dynamics. We can say another important element for your information is that the gas price. We said that in the US is spot, so it's not linked to any other kind of commodities. In Europe, it's practically still oil linked for about 80-85%. In Asia, is completely oil linked. So also oil, in terms of commodity, impacted because it's in the basket to calculate the price of gas. We go ahead. That the third leg of the scenario, that is refinery. Refinery, I'm talking about Europe, but is clearly Europe being impacted by the scenario worldwide. The first point, we can see that we have a big issue in terms of refineries. And when I presented at the very beginning our losses we had in the refinery is due also to this. First of all, in Europe, we pay the energy more than 2 times the energy paid in the US and in the Middle East and Far East. So that clearly creates an issue in terms of energy source for our refinery, our chemicals. Secondly, in Europe, Europe is an importer. We are not able to satisfy our energy needs because we are not our own production as in the US recently with the shale oil and the Far East and the Middle East. Europe imports 70% of its gas need and 50% of oil. So that means that there is no fresh oil and gas to feed directly the refineries and the chemicals. So that means that there is a logistics cost. So we pay energy more, and we have to ship to our refinery crude that come in from other countries. So that is an issue that creates immediately a less of competitiveness of our refinery worldwide. Second, we go back to the US. US had a lot of oil, a lot of gas, and before they were importing oil and they were importing gasoline and diesel. Now US from an importer became an exporter, a net exporter, and they exporting and the increase of 90% they export toward Europe, so 90% a huge number, and they are exporting diesel and they are exporting gasoline to Europe and to Africa. And the fact they are exporting gasoline has created a double problem. First of all, we are not able to produce gasoline anymore in huge quantity. And secondly, before Europe exported gasoline to the US, and that is finished. So this oil and gas revolution create clearly an impact on the European market. From the other side, also Russia increased the export of diesel and gasoline about 47% to Europe. And in the future Middle East. And also India increased by 9% the export to Europe of diesel and gasoline. That means that our refinery that were good refinery but small and without feedstock, gas and oil, immediately lost power, lost the capability to feed the market, lost the capability to reach the break-even cost. The break-even cost is practically the possibility, the capability to repay your capex and taxes and opex, and that is not there anymore. The refining margin dropped from more than between $8 and $10 per barrels to $3 per barrels, $2 per barrels, $1 per barrels. Just recently went up at 5, 6, now it's back to 4, but is less than half of what it was in 2008. So that has impacted our refineries enormously. We closed in Europe about 20 refineries. We have an exceed of about 50 million tons of products that we produce, but we are not able to sell, so we have to stop it. In Italy, we have if we have 50 million tons of excess product, diesel and gasoline we produce in Europe, you have to think that in Italy we have, out of these 50, we have 20 million tons of exceeding product, diesel and refining. For that reason, refining starting from 2008 lost about 7 billion our refineries. No, in Europe and in the other Italian refineries, much more. So you can see that this scenario is not good. It's not easy to be able to work in these conditions. So to have a company, a robust company that is strong enough to justify investment, to justify OPEX, to recover, because in our world we have to, when we invest, we have to produce revenue to cover our capex and to pay our dividend. That is a very simple game at the end. You must have a EBIT that is able to cover your capex and produce enough to cover our dividend. And that is no more there. In the good years, in 2012, 13, E&P had an EBIT of about 14 billion euro, 16 billion euro. We reached also in the good period 18 billion euros. Now we are at 1.5. That is a big number, but it's a small number because that is the EBIT, it's not the cash flow. But we have to consider that we invest until last year is about 10 million euro to develop our business each year. Now we are obliged to reduce to 8, 7, because there is not the possibility. If you are not able to reduce your investment and your EBIT and your operational cash is going down, means that you are increasing your debt, your leverage. And the main principle for a company is to be very light with a very low leverage. When you look at a company, you look at the leverage, you look at the debt, you look at the main production parameters, you understand if it's able to cover as I said, the investment, the operating cost, and the dividend. And that is the first things that our investors are looking. And if these numbers are negative, the investor put money in another business or in another commodity. We didn't talk the point of the financial area that impacted, not just because the financials are very down, but impacted a lot. And because there are some change in the kind of investors that are in this oil commodity. Since 2014, November 2014, when the investors understood that OPEC decided to pull out and not play the role of a controller of the oil price, the investor left this commodity. So the long investor left. Long investor means people that can stay 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 years in your commodity. So they buy your share and they stay there and just look at the capital gain and dividend yield, but is more interested to have a sure position in a sure commodity. At this point in time, they left, they ran away, and they've been replaced by the short-term position, hedge funds. That are playing. They are not institutional investors. They don't stay for 3, 4 years. They stay for 1 day, 1 month, 1 week, and you see how the swing we have in our oil price. Sometimes you see that they buy, the price is going a little bit high, and there is the speculation to create value in the short term, and that is a really terrible, fatal for our business, because our business, the energy business, is a long run. You put money up front for 4, 5, 6 years, then you start producing and you recover your money. So a business that can last for 20 years, that is the life of a field. 40 years, 10 years, but it's a very long run. And you must have the right investor for this kind of sector. People that stay there with you until the time to recover your investment. That is no more true. And that is because we don't have a regulator. OPEC is no more there. So we have this impact that is terrible. Just to give you an example, in the 80s, for each physical barrel, we had 6 paper barrel. So the barrel that we buy in the market very, very low. So the physical barrel was very strong. Today we are a ratio of 1 to 50. So for each physical barrel, we have 50 paper barrels. that means that there are people that without any risk, without putting any money, they are playing on this primary industry. That has a big responsibility, this industry. We have to deliver energy to 7 billion people. And there are still 3 billion people without access to energy or direct access to energy. So this market speculation, this financial market speculation is free. There is no policy. The policymaker don't look at that, but it is destroying a huge amount, billion of value. And who is paying is the individuals. Each of us is paying for that. There are some people that, without taking risk, without putting money, is playing on our life. And with the life, they are poor people. Nobody talk about that. It's not a very comfortable subject, but the financial area, without any kind of disciplines, is killing us. And that is something that you have to remember, because you are here to learn energy, to learn environment, to learn what you want, so specialities, and to get skills to make your job. You have to remember always to look around you and understand what is happening around you. It's not just a matter to be a good engineer, a good geologist. What you want is a matter to do something, understanding if what you are doing is useful or there is somebody that is doing something to destroy what you are doing. So in this master, you have to look at what you are learning this way. Open your eyes, turn your head, understand what is around you. What is good, what is bad. Because there are a lot of things in this that is around us that is not just is there by chance. It's there because there is no control. There is no discipline. And we are playing with the lives of a lot of people, of millions, of billions of people. Because energy is a serious word. And the financial speculation is something that is not serious at all. We are billionaires, but then we create a gap between people. We are billionaires, we are poor people that cannot eat. And the gap between poor and rich is the worst issue in this moment. We didn't talk about that, but inside the complexity, inside the anomalies, inside the big change, is because in the last 20 years, without any disciplines, we didn't understand we are creating a world that is a world with two groups of people that can have a lot of things and people that cannot have anything. And this situation, time by time, step by step, create a disaster. Create what we are living now. Create migration because there is no development, because there are wars. Create big clash between different kind of people. They destroyed diversity. They destroyed the construction of things. But we have to think about that. It's not ideological. It's life. And we have to, when you learn, we have to look around you. That is absolutely essential. Go ahead. No. Sorry. Was not in the presentation, but when I think about that, I get really upset. Now we talk about what we have done in terms of result. I don't want to talk really, we can say something, but how we reacted and why we reacted in this way. First of all, in front of a situation that is not depending on us, where we don't have grip on the market, we don't have grip on the oil price, gas price, geopolitics. We have to look at and work on the issue that we can handle. What we can handle? The cost. What we can handle? The efficiency. What we can handle? Our emissions, our gas flaring, our HCC, the parameter that can make our company stronger. We can handle our exploration, our production, our development. So we work on that things because we can handle and we can create a company that can resist also to a very bad wind and a very bad weather. So we start from our priorities. Our priorities is clearly HSE, is clearly because everything starts from the human being, the environment, the health of our people. And is not just related to the people. HSE is not just related to the people that is working for eniday. It is related, as I told you before, look around, to the people that are living around us. They're living with us, our stakeholders. We go to countries that are not our country, we are guests. So we have really to understand how to do things at the best way. So now we have some KPIs. We have safety. So on safety we put a big effort. And you see we have the two lines. The red lines is any, and the black one is the average of the industry. We start from a position a few years ago that we are not the best in class. So we really put a big effort. A big effort means starting from the CEO, from all the top management procedure, rules, field trip, meeting with all our people. We understood our people that this HSE is a priority. And what happened is that happened very positive stuff because we reduce of practically about 85% in the last 7 years our HSE record. Now we have a total injury rate that is the number of incident, total incident that happening out of 1 million man hours at 0.45 incident per million hour worked, against an average of the industry of 1.2, 1.3. So we are, in the last 3 years, we have been the top ranking among all our peers, so the big IOC. Then we reduce the flaring there, so that is for the individuals, for the people, for the human being. Then we have also the other parameters that are for the environment. One important parameter is the flaring. You know that during the refinery, EMP operation, we flare gas sometimes. We flare gas, we produce oil, that, especially in the past, we flare gas because the main point was to produce oil. So sometimes when you are offshore, you are not able to connect in your gas to a network, you burn your gas. And that is very bad for the CO2. Just to give you data, because that is very important to also always look at the data. Worldwide, every year, the industry, all the industry, up, downstream, and burn about 150 billion cubic meter of gas. 150 billion cubic meter of gas is the gas that each year Russia sells to Europe. So a huge amount of gas. So each year in the war we burn the amount of gas that Russia sells to Europe. That is huge amount. And that is producing about 350, 400 million tons of CO2. So that is a big component. So what we decided really to reduce this gas flaring. Also because gas is so important for us, is the future. So we want to keep for us the gas and use gas because it's producing much less CO2 emission than the coal. And the future will be renewable and gas. So we in the last 9 years we reduced of 50% our flaring, and now we're going to 85% our flaring, and we are going to stop flaring in 2025. The international target is 2030, so we want to reduce by 2025, increasing production. Then the other point is methane emission. Methane emission is much worse. It's not really concerning us. It's a world big issue. I gave you figures for the gas flaring. For the methane emission, we have about we issue in atmosphere about 100 billion cubic meter of methane that are leakage. So something that happened in the pipe, in the grids, is a big issue for the US and for the Russia, but it's a big issue for the world because we are overall issued and producing 100 billion cubic meter of methane. But the methane emission is much worse than the gas that we burn. And this 100 billion produce 1.8 giga cubic meter, gigatons of CO2. A huge amount. You have to imagine that we produce, we put in atmosphere about 32 gigaton of CO2 per year. That is in the energy segment that represent most of the CO2 emissions. And considering that 1.7 giga comes from the methane emission. So methane emission is something that we want to tackle. We reduce about 50%, and now by 2025 we want to reduce about 80%. For us, it's not big numbers, but we have to give a contribution. So that is a KPI, and can you see that as a result of the action we made, all the trend is very positive. The last KPI is the water injection. Water injection is another, the disposal of the water we produce from our wells is another KPI because it's very important not to spread around in the naturals. If we treat this water, it's much better to inject this water in the reservoir. So that is what we are doing, and we are growing. It's not always easy because water injection, and we produce water, especially in countries where we have some political issue, like Libya, like Nigeria. So that create a slowdown in our action. But our target is to have about 65% of the water we produced injected as a disposal or as a water injection to increase the recovery factor of our fields. We go ahead. So we talk about restructuring, and it's clearly that we said we passed from a divisional company to an integrated company, and that created a very strong impact on our costs. So we did also to reduce our cost. When we were corporate, we have a corporate with the different division, our cost was about $2.2, $2.3 billion per year. And that are structural costs that comes from the unit, the unit that give assistance to the business, IT, human resources, financials. So a huge amount of money, 2.2, 2.3. In 2 years, we brought these figures to have a 1.45, 1.48 billion per year. So that means that reduce more than 600 million euro our structural cost. And we aim at a total reduction in the 4 years to 2.5 billion. So that is very important because, as I told you before, we have to be more resilient to a very low price. That means that you must have costs that are affordable for your company. And that means that you have to create efficiency everywhere, and also not just in the business, but also in the structure of our company. So you change your organization to be more effective, more efficient, but also to cost less. Go ahead. Another point, another important point is what is your strategy in a very difficult and challenging moment. We said our strategy, we want to be less costly, we want to be more efficient. So how we can do that in the oil and gas business, in the energy sector? That means that your technical cost must be very low. What is the technical cost of the company? You are going to learn during this year, but I can anticipate some information. The technical cost is made by exploration cost, operating cost, capex, structural costs. That are the main costs that you have to handle, on which you must have a very strong grip to be able to control your cost. So everything for a E&P, so exploration production cost start from the exploration. We have been the only company, we can say, in the industry, considering the big IOC, to decide in the last years to put our focus on exploration. In the previous phase cycles, the other big IOC followed two different ways. The first way was at the end of the 90s. They decided to go through a very big M&A, so merger and acquisitions, to consolidate different corporates, and that happened. Remember ExxonMobil and BP Amoco, Total with the FINA and Elf. So they prefer to put money in acquisition than in exploration, because acquisition means synergies. But why you make acquisition? Because you need reserves, you need resources, you need more oil, more gas, because you have high production, you have to replace it. So you buy. The second steps after this big movement of M&A, we had the phenomenon of the shale oil, shale gas. Why shale oil, shale gas in the US has been really a big target for all the company, Total, Shell, Statoil, all the Europeans, plus the Americans, because differently you buy to acquire reserves, you buy acreage. So acreage is a very superficial one, is very homogeneous. So when you buy acreage, you are buying your resources. It's not like in the conventional way that you have to make exploration, drill a well, then an appraisal, then another appraisal or another exploratory wells, because you don't know what is underneath at 4,000, 5,000 meters. You have to understand and put investment to create your resource base. In the unconventional, it's much easier. In the tar sand, that is a mining, practically is much easier. So you can acquire very easily. Was not very successful because all the companies that put money in the shale oil and shale gas lost money. You say, why? Because the production is good, but you saw the price. The price went down at the very beginning. 2007, 2008 for the shale gas passed from $10 per million, $10 per million BTU to $2 per million BTU. That is very up. That means that they create a bit disruption, and they wrote off, I don't know, but about $120 billion from this acquisition. So that has been the main movement of the oil and gas companies in the last 15 years. What we decided really to put on exploration, why? Because we increase our skills. We saw, and after our studies, our regional study, that there are still a lot of conventional assets, and that was our bet. That clearly is a very risky one, but we put a lot of investment, we increase our skills, we insource a lot of people, and we start a campaign of reloading of our assets, and at the end of the day, that are the result. It started from 2009, we discovered 13 billion barrels of reserves. And if you compare in the period, what happened in this period, so if you compare what we discovered and what we produced in this period, we discovered 2.5 times what we produce. That means that we are in very good shape to replace our production. But we are also in a very good shape because this production, this exploration is coming from conventional assets first, so very low-cost assets where we have skills. Assets that are close to our facility, so there are huge synergies. And we discover, we didn't buy. I give you a few figures. These 13 billion barrels of reserves, the cost per barrel is 50 cents. A huge amount, so you can you can put your cost in a very big amount of reserves. 50 cents. If Eni or another company has to buy these reserves, so already discovered, we talk about 3P reserves, they have to spend about between $8 and $10. So when you consider that this is the first step of our cost, exploration, if you put 50 cents is something positive. If you put 10, your technical cost is already very high. But if you consider also the other exploration has been very not successful, because our peers, they, in terms of exploration, they cover just 30% of what they produce in the periods against 2.5 of UNI. And it's true that in the last 5 years, our rank is number 1 in exploration. And it's not just, that is not the good side of the story. The good side of the story is that we were able, because of that, to reduce our technical cost and our break-even cost. So exploration is a must. Exploration is really our starting point to be more efficient, less costly, and to reduce our break-even. Then we have the development. So we have the development. The development is another very important part. All the company develop fields, but it's much better when you start from your exploration. First of all, because you know your assets. You start from a lower cost. Is conventional, and we have to say that all the projects you see that are projects everywhere, mostly in Africa, but Indonesia, Africa, Kazakhstan, Venezuela, Angola, all the different countries where we work, all these developments come from the exploration we made in the last 4 or 5 years. That is something that is unique, because normally the time to market is 7-8 years. We are talking here about time to market that range from 4 years in the deep offshore to a few months in the shallow waters. So, and that is another important point to reduce your cost. Sure, you are developing your resources at very low price with projects that are very short time to market, and that means more NPV, more internal rate of return. The development has been clearly a revolution inside Eni, because that is another fashions that we didn't follow. We didn't follow the shale oil, shale gas. We went conventional. We didn't follow the M&A. We grew unconventional. And the other thing, we didn't follow the outsourcing. Outsourcing that has been the main fashion in the oil industry starting from 1992, 1993. What is the outsourcing? That means that the oil company became a bank. I mean, that is the stream. But it means that the oil company say, the contractor, turnkey, made the development. I don't want to have any kind of responsibility. The contractor, turnkey, run the drilling, run the exploration. At the end, we put the money. We coordinate a bit, but then you lost the control. And when you lost the control, you pay more money, more timing, and HSE, because it's not just HSE that you are controlling, but it's controlling somebody else. And we have big incident that we had in the past in the oil and gas. So we said, no, we want to develop our asset. We had a bad experience in early 2000 for Kashagan, where we were operator without being operator, because we were with 4 big companies, and we said, instead of outsourcing, we are insourcing, and we increase our engineering department, and we are running all the different phase. The different phase of the development is the conceptual phase, where you design, and that is all the company did. But then we have the feed, the front engineering, then the detail engineering, and then we have the cap and commission, and then the production. We put our people on all different phases, and we run the project as a main contractor. Outsourcing means that there is a contractor that is a main contractor, then that run different packages. That is drilling, the construction, the offshore, the wellhead, the umbilicals. And that means that at the end you put a contractor running other contractors. At the end, what is your expectation? Expectation that somebody took a lot of money, you are losing a lot of money. So we say, no, we want to be the main contractor. And that bring us to very good result. All these projects with a very short time to market. We are going to have a increase in our production in the next 3.5 years, about 800,000 barrels per day. That is a big issue. 800,000 barrels per day on an era average is huge amount of oil, and that also is also explaining what happened since 2014. 2014, on average, our production was 1,580,000 barrels per day, so 1,585. Now we are producing 185, or 1,850,000 barrels per day. So in 2.5 years, we got an increase of about 300,000 per day. Normally, 300,000 per day is increase you get in 10 years, maybe more. Another point that I want is very nice to say, just to give you an example of what the outsourcing gave to the industry. In 2005, if you look at 2005 as a point, a reference point to look at the future, from 2005 up today, the capacity increase in the industry is 340%. So it means that today, or 1 year ago, because now we are reducing, we are spending 50% more than 2005. And the production increase is only of 15%. So you can understand that the model is very bad. Fortunately, we have different kind of results. But if you give and delegate to somebody else, a third party, all your money or your production, your future will be very short and bad. You lose money that are not your money, but money of your investors. So the development, that is the capex, opex, and any production. We're already going to the production, but it's very interesting also what we did in terms of opex. In 2014, our OPEX per barrel, so the operating cost per barrel was of about $8.4 per barrel. Now we are $6.4 per barrel. So we reduced the operating cost of a huge amount of money. And the capex. Then is I see the challenge of this period. The challenge of this period is to reduce capex and increase production. So we have been able to reduce of 18%. The initial figures, you see that it was 39% reduction of capex 4 years. Then we discover, as you know, maybe you heard, maybe you don't know, but we discovered supergiant Zohr that is in Egypt. And this discovery clearly, we increase our capex because we invest 100%. We are alone there. And that means that our final capital reduction is of about 18%. But that is in any case is very important. And then we have the OPEX. The OPEX, as I told you, is a big reduction. So going back to the break-even price, that is our aim. Exploration is about now 50 cents. Last year was $1. Then we have to add. In this, we have to add $6.4. Then we have to add the development cost, $11 per barrel. So at the end, you get a technical break-even that is less than $20. And if you put also taxes and royalties, our average break-even now is about $27 per barrel. $27 per barrel is the E&P break-even. So if you have $30, if you have just the E&P, you have just this project, you make money. If you have $27, you are a break-even. You invest, but you don't get anything back. But 27 is the lowest in the industry. When we start in 2013, 2014, our break-even price was about $45 per barrel. And now, in 2 years, we brought, because of exploration, operating costs, and capex, to $27 per barrel. And that is, going back to what we said before, is clearly a must if you are in a situation where you don't control anything. OPEC is not there anymore. You don't control cost. You are the financial impact. You are a different energy mix that is growing. You must be very resilient. So you must be very resilient and very good in your operations. And that's what we try to do. Next. So we put a lot of time talking about E&P, but at the beginning I told you that we have other big business important. Chemicals is very important and it's very good now. And also R&M, refining and market, is very important and very good. But before was not that, as I told you before, and that is what we are. We did in the last 2 years, as I told you. You see that in 2013, all the business, the mid downstream together, were losing 400 million euro, 300 million euro. In 2015, that is the operating cash flow, now is produced 3.1, and in the first 6 months of 2016 is producing 1.5 billion. So a big improvement. A refining margin. In the refining margin was a very big topic. We lost a lot of money there. What we did, so our focus also in the refining was to reduce our break-even. We had a very high break-even, more than $8 per barrel. But I told you the margin was 2, 3, 4. So for each barrel, we were losing. We lost $4 or $5. Was not affordable. We couldn't go like that. So we put a big focus on the efficiency. We reduce our break-even now at $4.2, and we have to reach by 2018 at 3.5. And that with 3.5 will be matching the margin. So we are able to flow in a situation where the margin is very low, because now structurally our break-even is really different, and you can see the result. How we did that? We did through different kind of situations: efficiency, synergy in the in the storage. We reduce of 30% our capacity. I told you at the beginning that the exceeding capacity is a big issue. We reduced the capacity of about 30%. And we transform some of our refineries in green refinery that are refinery for the present and for the future, because mainly on diesels, so green diesel, to be able to mix and melt with the normal diesel, respecting the laws that want at least 10% by 2020 of mix between green diesel and normal diesel. So we open up to a green, I think, low carbon footprint refinery. We reduce our capacity, we create efficiency, and we use also technology. We invest a lot in technology. Sannazzaro is absolutely the example. Is also the reason why we were able to reduce drastically our break-even. Sannazzaro is based on our proprietary technology, our patent, and that is a big investment, but is giving big returns in terms of price of product. Is a technology, without entering the details, that is able to recover really the remaining residual of the barrel, so the heavy components of the barrel, and is also an upgrader that is able to upgrade the low density oil to higher density oil, so giving quality. And it's very important because it's not producing, as a residual, is not producing coke. So that is a coal, but is a coal kind of product that is a pollutant. So is a very environmental friendly, is very efficient, and has an efficiency of about 95% in the oil that it treats, because it's able to treat also the residuals. And that is our patent that now we sold to Total, because they want to do the same. But it's so technology, efficiency, synergy, reducing capacity. That was the game. Chemicals, I think we are, as a eni, very proud about our Versalis unit. That is a company, is a chemical business that is in Italy and Europe and worldwide, with a lot of technology, R&D, and the business model is being changed. We were more in the intermediate, now we are going to the sort of products that are specialities that are more close to the final user, so more along the chain to capture the value. And that has been very positive. Also with sometimes at the beginning of the year, with a very bad scenario, you can see what we lost in 2013, $387 million. In 2014, $347 million. Now, 2015, 2019, the results are absolutely positive. We recovered more year on year, more than 700 million euro. So that has been the total reaction. You saw the E&P, now you saw the mid-downstream, and then chemicals. So we transform the company, as you saw. We transform, reorganizing and creating value on the existing business, but we look also about the future. And that is quite important, because we saw at the very beginning that the energy mix is changing, and is a must. At least is a must for us. So we believe in the climate change. We believe that the situation in terms of climate must be improved, absolutely improved, and that is our responsibility. And then it's clear that we have to create a new business. We create a new business. We put in the new organization. And in this new unit, the report to me, is a new thing for us. It's a new thing. It's something new for eni. It's true that we work on the green refinery, green chemicals, but this is different. We reduce CO2 emission, but that is different. We want to use renewables. We want to use the renewables because we think that we have a huge opportunity. We are the first company in Africa. We have a huge amount of land there, and Africa has much more sun than oil and gas. And we consume a lot of gas there in our internal consumption to create energy for ourselves. And that, so our idea already started, already agreement in place with Egypt, with Algeria, with Tunisia, and also we are doing that with Italy. We have sun in Italy, so we can do that, and we have land. So we want really to replace our gas consuming business for internal consumption with photovoltaic and solar. And that should be a business. It should be a business. So it's positive because it's reducing emissions. It's positive because it makes free gas that otherwise we have to burn to create internal energy, and we can sell and give access to energy. And is an important new business for the future. So we don't just transform our company, we gave also a new life, a new shape inside our culture. So I think that we are practically close to the end, because I see you very tired, and somebody is sleeping, but it's my fault. So I want to finish talking about our new mission statement, because we made a big transformation, and that means that you must have a new mission statement that expresses your culture. And that is, we are an energy company. We are working to be the future where everyone can access energy efficiently and sustainably. That is a main point that we already discussed together. Our work is based on passion and innovation, on our unique strength and skills, on the quality of our people, and in recognizing that diversity across all aspects of our operations and organization is something to be cherished. We believe in the value of long-term partnership with the countries and communities where we operate. So here we expressed the value, the flag, the culture, the soul of our company. We talk about giving access to energy. That is a big responsibility, and we feel on ourselves the responsibility. We talk about people, we talk about passion, we talk about innovation. When we talk about people, it's not just a word. You know, big transformation, cutting costs, making a revolution inside the company. All the company made, more or less, a cutting cost, without growing, but cutting costs. And they fired thousands of people. There have been more than 150,000 people fired, dismissed, overnight. BP dismissed 7,000 people, and the other company made the same. We made all this stuff without touching one employment, one person. That was a must for us, because I cannot, it's too easy for a manager to fire people when things are not going very well. Before firing people, you have to put in order your company. You have to have the imagination, inspiration to transform with your people your company. The company belongs to us. It's not belonging to me or to the top manager. So when you put of our people, it's true. It's not just blah, 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 a word. That is true. It is clearly, we talk about diversity. Diversity means to work not just with your people, of your country, of your village, of your area, but working with the world. And that is something inside the culture of somebody that want to work in the energy sector. Diversity is the most important opportunity that we have. And that means that we have to respect the others, respecting us. And that is part of the essence of what we target with the Master MEDEA, is putting together people. Create not just super skills that sometimes are useless. You are good to do something, but if you are not good to work with somebody, you are zero. You are nil. You study for nothing. If you are not able to working together, to help somebody that is beside you, to imagine the future not alone in your room, but with somebody that is around you, and create the future that for us is energy for all, we wrote, you cannot. You must have passion. You must love the others. You must love yourself. And then you love your job. Your job is just a part. Your skills is just a part. You have to imagine you not alone, but you with the other, and learning and growing with the others. That is the main message that I wanted to deliver to you among the numbers and the other stuff about the company. And that is matter of this school. This is matter of the Mattei schools. Our founder that in a very visionary way, imagining all this, imagining the culture that after 60 years, among thousands of changed, remain the foundation and the flag of our company. Thank you.